Hi there, my name's Rachel and welcome to the University of Reading. I'm an undergraduate student studying psychology here, and I'd like to show you a little bit more about what our university has to offer for all you prospective students thinking about studying here. Corrine van Riekum is one of the host of researchers who teach here at the university, and her research focuses on neuroscience. She is here to explain what psychology is and why our university stands above the rest in psychology research and teaching.
So psychology is the study of the human mind or brain and human behavior. Psychology can be used in so many different ways also to improve our functioning, not just the functioning of the self, what most people are thinking about, but also functioning of an individual within the group, a social group, or across social groups, across different cultures, in the workplace, and so on. Why would you study psychology here at the University of Reading? Well, I think that we stand out in a number of different ways. So we have a number of research strengths, 4 research strengths, some of which are really unique in the country. So for instance, we have perception and action, a strong group in perception and action, a group in language and cognition, a group who studies also nutrition and health, as well as psychopathology and affective neuroscience. Really, one of the teaching philosophies that we have as well is that the research informs our teaching. So we bring it to the classroom. Basing the education in science and grounding it in science gives students a lot of important skills that they can bring into any career. At the end of year 1, which is very nice, very popular event is the student conference, where the students really apply what they've learned throughout the year to research a topic, find the information about that topic, and present it both in orally or in a poster form to their fellow students from all years, as well as to staff. We also have a new module which is called Psychology at Work, where not only theoretically we talk about how psychology can be applied in different types of professions, but where also students undergo a placement, be it within the faculty, within the department, within the university, or also externally at different organizations that we've contacted. This is also really to encourage students who now, since 2012, will be paying £9,000 per year to really come out of their psychology degree with a maximum number of opportunities to really fulfill the career the way that they see fit and should want to, and give them the skills in order to do so.
Tom Johnston is an experienced researcher in the field of neuroscience at the university and also takes care of our state-of-the-art MRI facilities as head of brain imaging. He is here to talk about how the brain thinks and feels and why some people find it hard to overcome their emotional responses while others do not.
At the University of Reading, at the Centre for Integrative Neuroscience and Neurodynamics, we're very interested in looking at the processes which support our emotional lives and as well our cognitive lives. So many people think of the brain as being responsible for the way we think, but fewer people perhaps think of the brain as being responsible for the way we feel. And in fact, our thoughts and our feelings interact. And it's that interaction between thoughts and feelings that we're very interested in looking at. In particular, we're very interested in the individual differences that exist in the way thoughts and feelings interact. Why is it that some people seem to be more driven by their feelings and other people seem to be more driven by their thoughts? Why is it that when put into a potentially emotional situation, some people really panic or perhaps go with their emotional response and find it very hard to overcome their emotional response, whereas other people seem to be able to put things in perspective, in context, tell themselves, well, yes, perhaps this isn't the best situation to be in, but I'll be okay, I can get through this. And so they can reframe things with thoughts in such a way that their emotions don't overwhelm them. So we're very interested in looking at these questions from a neuroscientific perspective. We use brain imaging techniques such as fMRI, also EEG, which is a way of measuring the electrical potential on people's heads, which gives us some idea about the brain activity that's going on. We even have a technique these days to temporarily stimulate different parts of the brain, and that also allows us to examine what those different parts of the brain are doing. the relevance of this research is really to understand people with, for example, clinical disorders such as anxiety, major depression, social phobia. In all of these cases, there seems to be a breakdown in the manner in which people can regulate their emotions. And the research that we do here goes directly into the courses that I teach. Students as well are able to ask questions, they're able to come along, see the research that we're doing, and towards the end of their degree program they're able to take part in it and actually do research projects that form part of our larger research effort here.
Jane Freeman studies cognition, in particular memory, and has an interest in the psychology of the ageing population. She explains here what happens to our cognition as we age, and how stereotypes can change how we think and remember as we grow older.
So we're an ageing population. People are generally living longer. Life expectancy is increasing, so there's a much greater proportion of the population who are over the age of 65. So we need to try and understand some of the cognitive changes that happen as we get older. And this is the area of my research and also of my teaching in parts 2 and part 3. One of the interesting aspects of cognitive ageing is that not all aspects of cognition are affected. For example, in terms of memory, we know that there are some aspects of memory that get worse as we get older and other aspects that tend to stay the same. And so one of the interesting things is exploring which aspects of memory get worse and why that might be. And we know that there are neurological changes that take place to the brain as we get older. So particular key areas of the brain deteriorate, the hippocampus and the frontal lobes. But of course, not all ageing is biological, and there are also social factors that can have a bearing on the extent to which we experience memory failures in later life. And we know that generally, when people think about ageing, they tend to think very negatively and tend to think that ageing is associated with memory decline. And where this is interesting is we know that these stereotypes can affect memory performance, and if we expose people to negative stereotypes, they do worse than if we expose people to positive stereotypes. And this is something, again, that I explore in my teaching and my research.
Claire Press researches in the areas of perception and action and is interested in one of the most interesting behaviours of humans, imitation. She talks here about how imitating someone else's actions is a part of daily life and how she conducts her research in this area.
I investigate the mechanisms that allow us to imitate. So imitations are a really central cog in the social world in which we live. There are many reasons why this is true, but to give a couple of examples. Firstly, it allows us to learn skills by observing other people do things. So for example, we can watch someone serve a tennis ball, and then through imitation we can attempt to copy that skill and therefore learn the skill more efficiently than if we were starting from scratch. Also, it's been found that imitation really strengthens social bonds between individuals, such that if we copy people, people like us more. So it's really quite an intrinsic cog in this social world. The research that I conduct largely uses neuroimaging techniques to study the neural mechanisms that allow us to do this. Neurons that have been found in the brain to allow us to imitate are called mirror neurons. And these neurons, interestingly, fire both when we perform certain actions and when we observe them. So they allow the translation of what we see when we observe an action into motor commands required for performance.
Lastly, Dr. Phil Beeman concentrates his research in the areas of language and cognition, especially working memory, structures that are used to temporarily store recent information. He shares with us how memory isn't just like a videotape, but is a complex system that isn't always entirely true and accurate.
So the whole point is that there are a great many things that can be done with modern technology and functional imaging, which means that the brain is no longer a black box that we don't know anything about. But there are a great many things that we can do beside that we can do without reference to the brain, and we can just talk about the mind in some ways. One of the things that we can do is we can look to see at the reconstructive nature of memory, and the fact that memory is not a videotape like the one I'm speaking on now, but instead it's something that you interpret based upon fragments. So it's not something that just replays back, but it's a series of fragments that represent your best guess of what actually happened. This is quite fundamental to how the brain or the mind works generally, because perception also works as the best guess to what is actually happening out there at the moment. So visual perception is the eye and the brain's best guess of what things that are out there actually look like. Visual illusions occur when that best guess isn't good enough and the system is fooled. In a way, it can be condensed as saying all of memory, all of perceiving, all of cognition, all of thinking, if you like, is a form of decision making, of hypothesis testing, of trying to make sense of what's out there and deciding what it most likely is, trying to make sense of what just happened and what most likely just happened.
This is only a snapshot of what the course content offers here, and there is something for everyone at the University of Reading. We hope you've enjoyed your day here, and good luck in your A-level exams.